Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today let's talk about how to start an Adeptus Custodes army in 10th edition of Warhammer 40k. To make this video much easier to watch, we can divide it into several parts. So first we can talk about the combat patrol, then we can talk about the Codex of the Adeptus Custodes, and with that we can talk about the different playstyles that this army has and the miniatures that we should aim for depending on how we want to play our Custodes. And finally we can talk about the army itself, and I would also like to mention how I would start an Adeptus Custodes army if I had to, so let's do it. But before I continue, as always, this is my point of view based on my own experience. This is how I will tell a friend about how to start an Adeptus Custodes army. So if you have a different point of view or a different experience, or you will do this in a different way, please let me know in the comments. Obviously, if we talk about start collecting a new army, we need to talk about the combat patrol, because this is supposed to be the best way to start collecting a new army. This is not always the case, there's always better combat patrol than other ones, but at the moment of making this video, I have to say that I think that the Custodes Combat Patrol is the best one that has been released in 10th edition until now. So let's talk about the contents of this Combat Patrol and why it's so good. If we buy this Combat Patrol, we are getting 5 Custodian Guardians, then after that we're getting 5 Custodian Wardens, 3 Alarus Terminators, and this Combat Patrol is led by a Blade Champion. Good selection of miniatures and a perfect foundation for a Custodes army, because the range of miniatures is not huge in this army, and here we have a good selection and a good variety. It's not weird that if we think about a Custodes army, we think about these miniatures right there. So from my point of view, it's a perfect foundation. Would I recommend this combat patrol? Yes, and actually I will even recommend getting 2 of them, because having 2 units of Guardians is not bad, having 2 units of Wardens is not bad, and having 2 units of Alarus is not bad. Even with the Blade Champion, you can assemble the miniature in 2 different ways, one of them carrying only 1 sword and the other way carrying 2 swords, so even if you have 2 times the exact same character, it will look a little bit different at least, so it's not that bad to get 2 of this one. Aside from that, let's not forget that in the unit of Wardens, Guardians and Alarus Terminators, we can assemble one of those miniatures from each unit to be a captain. So we can make a lot of captains from one of these boxes, actually 3 of them, and if we get 2 boxes we can make even 6 captains. Not necessary at all, but it's a possibility, and thanks to that kind of stuff, like making characters out of the units, with only 2 boxes we can reach 2000 points, we can reach the whole army right there. Maybe it won't be the most efficient way, but having 2 of these boxes, it's right now it's almost the whole army. We will just need to get 1 or 2 extra boxes of individual units to fill the gaps, but it's quite a simple, easy and effective way to have like a full force of Custodes. So yes, I like this combat patrol a lot, and I think that it's a perfect way to start a Custodes army. I already made a video when this box came out, and I wanted to say that it was really good and it was a fantastic combat patrol, so in case that you are interested, I will leave the link in the description. Enough of the combat patrol for now, let's talk about the Codex of the Adeptus Custodes, because if we want to play this faction properly during 10th edition, at some point we will have to consider getting this book. There we will get not only information about the faction, but also all the rules, all the detachments and all the information necessary of all the units. It is true that this book is going to be outdated during the actual 10th edition even, but by having this codex we will allow all the information regarding the Custodes in the Warhammer 40k app, and there we always have all the information updated. So yes, you can decide to get this book, or if not, there's people that look for this information on the internet. You can do whatever is more convenient for you, of course. But we need to talk about this codex because there we have the 4 different detachments of the Adeptus Custodes, and that means the 4 different ways that we can play this army. First of all, let's talk about the army rule, because it doesn't matter which detachment we choose, the army rule is always going to be there if we play with Custodes. With that being said, the army rule says that if every time that an Adeptus Custodes unit is choose to fight, we can decide if we have with the melee weapons sustained hits once or lethal hits. With this being said, we already know that this faction is supposed to be a little bit more focused into melee combat because the benefit of the army rule is going to be present there. Let's go for the detachments, and here I would like to mention that I will just talk a little bit about them, not too deep because this is a video about how to start collecting the faction, not about how to play them, so I will just mention the detachment rule and what the enhancements and the stratagems are focused into, because as I said, I don't want to make this video super long, and if I start talking about all of this, it's going to be much more dense than it should be. So I want to keep things simple. Let's talk about what each detachment does and what units are the best or the more suitable for that specific detachment. Okay, first detachment, Shield Host. This is my personal favorite. This is the one that I will play if I had to play Adeptus Custodes, and this is the one that focuses a little bit more into the units of the combat patrol. That's why I like it so much, because I like the combat patrol. This detachment benefits those units a lot, and it's a perfect combination. This detachment allows us that once per battle, only once per battle, we can improve the army rule, and it will mean that we are going to score critical hits on 5+, not only on 6, and they are going to improve the armor penetration of the weapons by 1. It is very simple, very straightforward. This detachment benefits a lot all the units in the combat patrol, which means that if we want to have this specific playstyle, we can just get 2 combat patrols, we can get some other box of units to fill in the gaps, and we have like a functional army. Maybe it's not going to be the most competitive ever, but we have a foundation to add more things later, and that's why I like this specific detachment a lot. The second detachment that I will talk about is Talons of the Emperor. This detachment combines the units in the combat patrol with the Sisters of Silence. I didn't talk about them until now, but in the Adeptus Custodes we have these Sisters of Silence. There are 3 different types of units. It's the same box, it's only one box, it's just that you can assemble those miniatures with different weapons, and each weapon means that it's a different unit. So quite simple. This detachment wants us to combine both units, the big golden bodyguards from the combat patrol and then the Sisters of Silence. This detachment is going to give our units 2 different kind of auras. Adeptus Custodes, they are going to have a 6 inches aura that will make the Sisters of Silence have +1 to hit. And Sisters of Silence will have a 6 inches aura that will make Adeptus Custodes units have a 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds and psychic attacks. Basically, this detachment is quite lore accurate, and they want us to play Custodes with Sisters of Silence. That's the main goal of the detachment. All the stratagems, all the enhancements are focused into this synergy between units, and basically Sisters of Silence will make Adeptus Custodes being more tough and resistant against the wounds that they are the most vulnerable, and Custodes will make the Sisters hit better. If we want to embrace this playstyle, I still will recommend probably 1 combat patrol, because here we have to combine Custodes with Sisters, and in the combat patrol we have 3 different units of Custodes, and then we have 1 character, so that's quite nice. Then we can get maybe more Custodes, but for sure we should aim to get Sisters of Silence. As I said previously, there's 3 different types of Sisters of Silence. They just come in the same box. It's just that depending on the weapons that we choose, they're going to be 1 unit or another one. But yes, basically this attachment we need Custodes and Sisters in kinda similar amount. We talk about a detachment focus in the Custodes. a detachment focused into mixing Custodes with Sisters, now it's time to talk about a detachment focused purely into Sisters of Silence. Let's talk about Null, Maiden, Vigil. And as I said, this detachment is purely focused into Sisters of Silence. All the stratagems, all the enhancements, everything is focused into them. The detachment rule mentions that in our opponent's command phase, every single unit that is below starting strength or a psyker that is within 12 inches of one of our Sisters of Silence units must take a battle shock test. If that unit is below half strength, and it should take a battle shock test anyway, it's going to do it with a -1. Let's remember that when a unit is battle shocked, the objective control goes to 0 and we cannot use stratagems on that unit. So this is something that will benefit the army, and it's going to be very annoying for the opponent. But still, I'm not in love with this attachment because, as I said, it's focused into Sisters of Silence. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that there's only 3 units of Sisters in game right now. And it's only one box that we can change the weapon loadout to be different units. It's true that all units of Sisters are going to be battle line in this detachment, which means that we can take 6 of each unit, but still there's too little units to focus like a whole army. We can still add Adeptus Custodes units to this detachment, it's just that they will have to work on their own because they are not going to get stratagems or enhancements for them. So it's not that bad. For me the main issue is that if we are starting a new army, this is going to be probably the most expensive one to get because yes, we can get probably the combat patrol, then we will have some Custodes units that will work because they are good units overall. Custodes, they are quite good by themselves. And if we add them to this attachment, those units can work on themselves. It's just that we will get to buy a lot of Sisters of Silence because in game they are quite cheap. This is not a bad detachment, and I do consider that people that they have been collecting Custodes for a while and they have like a big quantity of Sisters of Silence, they will be like, okay, let's try this attachment because it looks cool. But for someone that is starting, for me it's not that encouraging because there's only 3 units of Sisters. As I said, for me, as someone that I like to collect, I like to paint the miniatures, I like to assemble them, this is something that doesn't encourage me too much because, as I said, it's only one box of Sisters. It will be super cool if they add more to the range of Sisters of Silence, they add different kind of stuff to it, and something different at least that I will say, okay, there are 2 different boxes that you can get of Sisters, but in this case it's only one. So that's why this is not my favorite one. I like more the previous one that you were able to combine both forces, that you could have like the Sisters and the Custodes, and you are going to be benefiting both of them in the detachment. So as I said, you can still get Custodes, it's just that they will have to work on their own. It's not that bad actually, it's okay. So it's another option, it's another thing that we can do. If we want to play this specific detachment, I still will recommend probably a combat patrol because Sisters of Silence in game, they are quite cheap units. So we will need to get a lot of them. If we get some Custodes there that they can, let's say they can work on their own and they can do their things, they can be like a part of the list, so it will be easier to reach 2000 points. As I said, this attachment it's focused into Sisters of Silence, so we will need to get a lot of them. We can get Rhinos to carry them on the battlefield, and we can get even things like the Land Raiders to carry them as well. And finally, the last detachment, we have Auric Champions. This detachment is purely focused into characters. The detachment rule is quite simple as well. In our command phase, we choose one enemy unit and all our characters until our next command phase, they will have +1 to wound against that enemy unit. As I said, this detachment is purely focused into characters. All the enhancements, all the stratagems are purely focused to make our characters better. This detachment has a similar issue to the previous one, like if we want to add Custodes here, they will have to work on their own. So it's not that bad, Custodes can work on their own, so it's okay. Even if the detachment is focused into characters, we can still add Custodes units because of course Probably we will want to have those characters with bodyguards, and we can still add also Sisters of Silence. We can add these kind of units, it's just that those units will have to work on their own. If we want to embrace this playstyle, I still will recommend to start with the Combat Patrol, because in the Combat Patrol we have the Blade Champion, it's a character, and then we can have one cap time out of the Guardians, one cap time from the Wardens, and one cap time from the Larus Terminators, because that build option is there in the box. We can have 4 characters out of that box with bodyguards for them, so it's not that bad. It's true that we will have one character without bodyguards, but it's okay because it's a detachment focused into characters. We can have these kind of things, it's not that bad. And basically, yes, if we want to focus into this detachment, let's have all the heroes, all the characters, and let's play with them. With everything that I said, now we know that we have 4 different ways to play Adeptus Custodes. We have a Combat Patrol that can work in all of those detachments, because those units are quite nice by themselves. And we can decide to have like one detachment specifically for the big golden bodyguards of the Emperor. We can have one detachment that we can mix nicely Sisters of Silence and Adeptus Custodes. Then we have one detachment focused purely into Sisters of Silence. Please, Games Workshop, bring more Sisters of Silence units or different kits. And then we have a detachment focused into characters. That is quite nice as well. So we have different playstyles, we have different things to do with them, and even if it's a small army in terms of variety of units, we can do different things with them. It's not that bad. I'm not going to talk about if the Codex by itself is good or bad, because this is something that we are not going to talk about here right now, but it's good that we have different ways to play a faction. And I would like to say that if you would like to start an Adeptus Custodes army, something that I will personally recommend is to get the Warhammer 40k official app, because yes, that app is not perfect and it has a double paywall. That's not nice, because you need to pay if you want to build more than one list. Building one list is free, and that's where I'm going to, okay? And all the information about the detachments and the rules, it's also, you have to get the Codex to unlock that. You can get that information on the internet, I have heard that, I don't know where, but you can get it. But in the app, it's free. I mean, you can download it by free and you can make your own list for free, and you will see all the points of the units, and you can build the proper list. So you can start building a Custodes list, you can choose the units that you want, and like that you can see how close or far you are from the optimal 2000 points. So it's quite nice, because like that you can have like a vision of the army that you are building, and that's something that I would always recommend, because it's always nice to visualize what you want to achieve. And to finish the video, I would like to mention that if I had to build a Custodes army right now, I'm not going to do it, I cannot afford that, but if I had to, I will get 2 combat patrols, because that's the cheapest, most simple way to do it from my point of view. I will get 2 combat patrols, I will have 2 blade champions, but I will build one of them with the double blades and the other one with the big blade, single one, and then I will probably make one captain from the Alarus, and I will make one captain from the Wardens probably. Because I like it a little bit more. I like much more the Wardens than the Guardians, because the Guardians, they look quite... they don't look bad, okay? I don't think that they look bad, but when I look at them, I think that you can feel that they were like probably the first models that Custodes had. They don't look quite new. The other ones look a little bit better in terms of proportions and style, so I like them a little bit more. I like a little bit more the Wardens and the Alarus and the Guardians, so that's why I will try to get one captain from the Wardens. And then maybe I will get some bikes or sisters probably. Yes, I will go for that, because I think that bikes, they can be useful in game and they look kinda cool for Custodes, I think, my opinion. The concept of them, it's also quite nice, so that's probably what I will do if I had to start a Custodes army right now. And with all of this being said, I think that this is the end of the video, because we talk about the combat patrol, we talk about the army rule, we talk about all the detachments that are in the Codex, and we talk about what kind of units we should try to aim for depending on the playstyle that we want. I also mentioned how I will start a Custodes army, so I think that everything is set right now. And yes, I think that this is the point, that if you would like to add something to this video, like for example, it didn't talk about Trajan Valoris, or there are characters that I didn't mention, so maybe you would like to add more about those, or if you will have a different point of view or perspective about how to build this army, please let me know in the comments. And as usual, if you're still here, please consider giving me a like and subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.